Damien, let's start with you, because I know among other areas you spent 7 years working in Northern Ireland. Yeah. You saw an awful lot of bad things. Yeah. How did that affect you in terms of when you came home?
It's such a drastic change to come home to kind of fit into normality, really. It's not a very easy conversion to do, so it does have a massive effect on you. You don't realise until you leave the forces.
One minute you're fighting in the streets and it's aggressive and you have to be kind of someone different, and then you're at home with your wife and your children. How did they cope from
Unfortunately, my marriage broke down due to those kind of issues. It's such a vast contrast of things to try and come from that to that. It's not something that's done very easily.
And you were then diagnosed with suffering, like many soldiers, from post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah.
Did you have trouble talking about it or realising it within yourself?
Yeah, it takes quite a bit to admit you're brought up. You know what I mean? You're trained to be kind of not weak and to admit there's any sort of issue, and then to come out and have to learn the hard way that actually I have some issues. It's not the rest of the world, it's me. So it's very hard to kind of admit that.
But you are one of many soldiers, aren't you, Damien? And
yeah.
Dennis, you must see this every day, the work that you do, that this is not an isolated case, is it?
There's literally millions worldwide of soldiers that have been through a very similar situation to Damien. There isn't a very effective treatment out there at the moment, apart from a charity called Talking to Minds. They're doing fantastic work. I was talking to somebody from the Veterans Council who said nobody has produced results, only Talking to Minds. Even the big professionals, the NHS, haven't got results for people being cured, fixed. So, you know.
There's a lot to do. I mean, how did you come to terms with your situation?
Unfortunately, I fell into a life of where drugs and alcohol and kind of getting myself into crime as a cry for help. And I tried all the avenues that were open to me, and luckily I found Talking to Minds through friends of friends, and they kind of really turned my life around for me. So for me, the proof is in the pudding, so to speak. Their statistics are correct.
And it's interesting, isn't it, to look at the numbers of young soldiers who are maybe more predisposed to violence than young men who haven't been in the army. Why is that? Is it the training they get, or is it because maybe people who gravitate towards the army are naturally more competitive anyway because of the role that you're going to have to do? What do you think about that?
Well, yeah, that's two-sided. Yeah, you can get slightly aggressive people that would join the forces, but also anybody. People ask me all the time, how come some soldiers get post-traumatic stress disorder and some don't? Everybody that goes into a combat situation is affected in some way. Not necessarily post-traumatic stress disorder, but they're affected in some way. You would say that, wouldn't
totally,
you? You know,
it doesn't have to be a combat situation all the time.
So what should the MOD be doing? If you were in charge and you were seeing all these guys coming back from Afghanistan, what would you be putting in place for them in their transition to civilian?
They should be looking at the areas that aren't working and moving more into the areas that aren't working, which is PTSD. The therapy that is used by the NHS and various other agencies is non-effective. I can prove that. I've been through them. Talking to Minds, however, I've got the statistics and it's working. So why are they not being looked at? I don't know. It may be a political issue. It may be a monetary issue, but it's a ticking time bomb.
Let's hope they get it sorted out. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. It's a pleasure to talk to you both.